Hey guys, we're out here. We're going to do a flight test for Chris McClintock. Chris, this is your DX8. What we're going to do here is I'm going to show you some of the pre-flight startup things and tips that you need to know, as well as you other guys out there that are having any questions about kind of the NASA and how you get started. We're going to go through some of those features now and check it out. The first thing that we're going to do is a compass calibration. A few people have had some questions about exactly how to do this, so we're going to go through that right now. You can notice in the background you'll see the green flashing light. When it's flashing green like this, it means it's acquired the satellites. Now if you get green and then a red flash, that means it's still looking, and I wouldn't take off yet at that point. If you take off without all the satellites being acquired, what's going to happen is you're going to get a toilet bowl effect, or it might think that the home point is 2,000 meters to the north. So wait till you get just the green, just like you see right there. Now we're going to go into the compass calibration mode. For Chris's, this is the green switch. This is the flight mode switch. So you'll notice when I push this into the middle position, that turns orange. That is attitude mode. And when I go all the way down to the third position, you get nothing. That means you're in manual mode, all pure, fully manual mode. Okay, so we're going to take that switch and move it back up to GPS. We're going to get the green flash again. To get to the calibration mode, you have to go down to manual mode and back up about 7 times rather quickly. Okay, so you go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. There it is. Now you see how quick I did that. Now you've got just a solid light. Okay, so that solid orange light means that you get to do the compass dance. What you want to do, you've got the orange light on and it's solid. Pick the quad up from here, hold it about this high, and you want to go all the way around at 360 degrees. And this will go from orange to solid green. Once you've done that, rotate the quad up this way and then go around in the same 360 degrees. And when you go all the way around, it'll go back to the flashing green if you're in GPS mode on your controller, which it is. That's where I ended up. Since I ended up in the GPS mode, now basically we are flashing GPS because we're ready to go ahead and take off in GPS mode. So that was a compass calibration for you. So here's an example of it's acquiring satellites right now. You'll notice that getting less and less red blinks, and now finally all green. That means all of the satellites have been acquired, and now it's safe to take off. The rapid green flashing light means it's acquired its home location for fail-safe, return to home, and for the intelligent orientation control. All right, so you're ready to take off. You've acquired all of your satellites. Everything's ready. To start your motors, you're going to push these 2 sticks into the center position. Watch. There you go. Once you've started the motors, it won't take off until your stick is past 50%, being a NASA V2. You'll notice in GPS mode that it can float around sometimes depending on the wind, but most of the time wherever you leave it, it will stay. in this case. But if you get that sort of oscillating effect there, you can calibrate your compass just like we did. We're going to come in for a landing. Chris, that's been a flight test of your new X Quad. Hope you love it. If you have any questions, just let me know. Follow these instructions and you should be fine. Again, after she gets in the air, she's all yours. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks. Chris, we've got your X Quad here, and you just saw the flight test. So now what I'm going to do is show you some of the features and components of your quadcopter package here, and also kind of familiarize you with the FPV equipment and the switches. So let's jump right in. You've got your DX8 here. What we've done is we've color coded the switches. The switches that don't actually have any color coding on them at all are not used. They're not programmed. So you want to focus only on the ones that I have color coded, and of course your knob up there. So let's start with your green switch. This switch right here is, as I mentioned earlier, this is your flight mode. So in the back position or 0 position there for where it says F mode, okay, that's GPS. And position 1 is attitude mode, and the bottom position or position 2 is manual mode. So this will default out in GPS mode, and again in the flight test earlier I showed you how that coincides with this switch and the mode that you're in as far as the LED light. So it starts out in GPS mode, and that's where you're going to default to. The black switch right behind it is your retracts. Now with the retracts plugged into your receiver, they kind of go through a little self-check first. So it's kind of strange, but when you plug in the battery, you'll see the retracts go whoosh, and all they're doing is self-checking. So and I'll kind of touch on that here in a little bit, but this is your retract switch. They're down, and that'll make them go up. And I demonstrate that in your flight test video as well, of course. So that's the switch I was using for that. Let's go over here and talk about the yellow switch. This is your fail-safe. So flicking that forward, regardless of which mode you're in, it will return to home. So like I showed earlier, the little rapid green flashing light, it records the home location for the GPS. By flicking this switch right here, it will bring the quad back to that location. It'll land and shut off the motors for you. So that's your fail-safe. And then last but not least, what we've got here is your gimbal tilt knob. So with your gimbal plugged in, this back and forth will rotate your gimbal's tilt angle. So that's all programmed in there, and I'll show you that here in just a little bit. But that's your DX8. Those are the switches that are programmed, so follow those instructions and you'll be able to find what switch does what. With your GoPro in here, you're going to put this ring around the lens, and you're going to set it right down into that holder. And you're going to take these two little bolts, and they're going to go right through there, and they're just going to screw in. And you get those nice and snug. And then of course you want to plug in your cable there to your camera before you put it in the gimbal. Because there's plenty of room for it once you get it on there, but after you put the camera on there, you can't get the cable on there without having to take it back off. So just a little quick note there on that. Talk about your FPV equipment and your quadcopter here. So first, let's talk about how to get your FPV equipment fired up. On your quad, you've got your main battery here. Obviously powers the quad itself, and that's the part that plugs into the main quad connector. Okay, this right here is a power source, or rather a power receiver for the video transmitter that's right under here that you see, the green with the antenna coming out of it. That's your Fat Shark video antenna. Alright, and so that video transmitter is powered by this battery right here, and it plugs directly into this balance lead connector. So plugging this in will turn on that transmitter. And of course, now I've set my GoPro in here kind of like we talked about so I can show you how this operates. But here's your FPV live video out cable. Okay, so this goes wired up and goes to that transmitter. This is your IOSD cable that's connected into here. So with your GoPro on and this plugged into this little battery right here, okay, that powers your video transmitter. Camera's on, and before you put your camera in there, into this GoPro, into this gimbal here, you're going to make sure that this cord is plugged in to the side of your camera right down here. And as long as you're plugged in right there, that will give your video transmission out to the goggles so the receiver can pick those up. Okay, so you're going to plug this battery into here. this little cable will be plugged into your GoPro when you have it put into this gimbal. You'll turn this on. And then what you're going to do is you're going to plug this power cable into the side of your goggles. Okay? And then to get your image, all you have to do is plug in your main quad. Now, your main quad has the IOSD on it, so that kind of intercepts the video image coming from the camera to the video transmitter. So reason it intercepts it is so it can put the on-screen flight information on there. So again, little battery's plugged into there. This cable's in your GoPro and your GoPro's on. Your main quad is plugged in, and this is plugged into the side of your goggles. And as long as you do that, you'll have your image with your IOSD on there. It looks awesome, and so that's how that operates. So I want to show you the gimbal tilt function. We're going to turn on your transmitter. We'll set that down. If your transmitter goes off like that, when you're trying to turn it on, if one of your switches are not in the up position or off, it'll do that. So if you get that warning, just look at the screen and it'll tell you which one of these isn't all the way up in the position that it should be. That was good to see that. Okay, now I'll demonstrate how the retracts kind of move a little bit. So the best way to do this would be just to kind of hold it by the arm and then hold this battery plug like that with your fingers, lift it up slightly, and then plug in your battery. And you notice they do a little self-test. Okay, now you just set it down, and then here's our green light, and I explained that in the flight test, but again, that's how you're going to turn that on. Okay, this is your gimbal, and this is an auxiliary jack, this is your gimbal power. You got a couple of them. This one is your LEDs, and I've got those hooked up already because they're on. So what we're going to do is, while it's nice and it's sitting here, it's powered up, and it's nice and level, what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the gimbal cable. Okay, and then you'll watch this level. Okay, then what we're going to do, we're going to take your DX8 and we're going to rotate this knob. As you can see, I'm rotating it, and when it goes back to the mid position, it'll click and you keep rolling it. So as you turn it, like this would be up, and then stop, you hear a chirp. Let's go down and stop when you hear the chirp, and it will hold its position there, as you can see. That's your gimbal function. Okay, let's make a quick note about the batteries. So your batteries, you're going to need to make sure those are at 4.2 volts per cell for your 4-cell, and then that's also the same for your 2-cell. So, but there's only 2 cells, so this is going to be 8.4 volts fully charged, and this one's going to be 16.8 volts fully charged. You just want to make sure that your voltage level does not go below 3.2 volts per cell. So if you get to that point and you drop below that, it will damage the battery permanently, and that is almost the case every single time if that happens. So you just want to make sure you keep an eye on your voltages. Your battery charger has a voltage checker, so you'll be able to check that in the field or at home. So, and as far as the blades go, what I'm going to point out here is the rotation of the motors. Okay, so this front left one and its diagonal counterpart back here both travel clockwise motion. This one and the one back here both travel in a counterclockwise. So the quad is facing us. So if you're standing behind it, again, this is clockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise, counterclockwise. And if you're looking at your blades, these are the plastic ones here I'm using as an example. Alright, you'll see how they say 1045R. R stands for right rotation. You can see the blades cut that way. So we know that this one will go on here. You unscrew this little thing, pop the blade on there, and then you'll tighten this down. You're going to put something through there to kind of get your leverage. Now you don't want this too tight. You want it tight and snug, but you don't want to over tighten it. Okay? And then you want to make sure that it is tight enough that it's not going to fly off. So your quad will do somersaults all the way to the ground if it comes off, so you don't want to do that. So you just want to make sure that it's tight enough, it's not going to come off, but you're not cranking it down too tight. So that's a quick memo on the blade installation there. That's your X quad, and I know you're going to love it. Flies like a dream. Those are some of the features and functions of your transmitter and of your quad and your FPV setup. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you so much.